Because right now, everything that we've grown up knowing to be good and right and true has been twisted and perverted and repackaged to our kids as wrong. And it takes good people out there fighting to win this culture war. So let's give Matt Schlapp and everybody else. Our constitutional freedoms, particularly the Second Amendment, for those of you who support the right to keep and bear arms, suffered a devastating loss in February. That's when Justice Scalia passed away. 8 years ago, some of you know that the Supreme Court ruled on whether or not we have the basic right to keep a gun in our home. Literally, just do you have the right to protect yourself and your family against a murderer who breaks into your home? That should have been a 9-0 decision, and we won it 5-4. One vote. Well, that one vote's gone now with Justice Scalia's passing. So this is a critical time in American history. It's a critical time for constitutional freedoms, and it's going to take real people who really care about the Constitution to get out there and work. And I'm excited. I'm privileged to get to introduce the next speaker. I'm honored because I've been able to work with him over the years. I'm honored to be able to call him a friend. But I have to tell you, this individual, when he was in Congress, he worked unapologetically and tirelessly on behalf of the Constitution. When the trial lawyers tried to sue the gun manufacturers out of business, this man said, you don't hold manufacturers responsible for criminal misuse of a non-defective product. That's the equivalent of suing General Motors for a drunk driving accident. That's not how we do things in America. And by the way, he said these are the same companies that Franklin Delano Roosevelt called the great arsenal of our democracy. These companies provide the firearms for our men and women in uniform and for law-abiding Americans. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. And he worked to make sure that that protection was passed, that George Bush, when Matt was there, signed into law. He went on to lead his state with the same principled, conservative approach. And I can tell you this man, when he puts his hand on a Bible and swears to uphold the Constitution, he's not going to pick and choose. When he swears that, he's been called a good man. I like that. He's been called a principled man, a solid guy. I like that too. But what I'm really going to like is when I have to call him Mr. Vice President. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, Matt. My fellow conservatives, it is very humbling for me, as a small town boy from southern Indiana, whose grandfather came to this great country in 1923, to think that I will step to a podium and accept my party's nomination to run and serve as the next Vice President of the United States. I'm honored to be with you today. Honored to be able to come by and thank Matt and thank the American Conservative Union for everything you've done for the cause and the country throughout my 57 years. I'm joined today by the highest ranking official in the state of Indiana, the future Second Lady of the United States, Pence. I'm so grateful for Chris's introduction, for his great leadership at the NRA. For all those kind words, I prefer a shorter introduction. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. My own journey, maybe like yours, has been an interesting one in public life. I actually started out in the other party when I was a young person. Became active I was the Democratic Party Youth Coordinator in Bartholomew County, Indiana. Kind of a community organizer, if you will. But it was after I heard the voice and the ideals of our 40th president that I knew in my heart that my place was in the Republican Party. Started our family, married the girl of my dreams, and started running for office. Like Newt Gingrich, it took me 3 times to get elected to Washington, D.C. But we made it. It's been a fascinating journey that many of you in the room were a part of and continue to be a part of. A journey that began with a time for choosing speech in 1964 and the candidacy of Barry Goldwater would culminate in the great election of Ronald Reagan in 1980. And in Newt Gingrich's Republican revolution that took over the Congress after decades of Democratic. But I ran for Congress first before the Republican Revolution, but frankly, sometimes I felt like I got elected after it was over. By the time I arrived in Washington, D.C., the first priority of a Republican president was No Child Left Behind, one of the largest expansions of the federal government's role in education in the history of the department. As soon I found myself battling against a president and leaders in my own party on that issue, on the expansion of entitlements, and I'm proud to say I was one of the first to fight against the Wall Street bailout on Capitol Hill. I watched as our party lost their way and, not surprisingly, lost the majority in 2006. But then I had the great privilege of being a part of a renewed Republican conference. And I was part of the leadership team that retired Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House in 2010. In 2012, it was back home again to Indiana. I had the opportunity to step in as governor of the great state of Indiana. I followed on the heels of a great friend and champion of conservative ideals and a great leader in our state, Mitch Daniels. He put our fiscal house in order, but I knew that if we allowed the people of Indiana to keep more of what they earned, if we made the right investments in education, innovation, and reform, if we made the right investments in the kind of government that Hoosiers might expect, that we could go from good to great. And we did. In the last 4 years, we passed the largest state tax cut in Indiana history and now are home to the largest school voucher program in the United States. Unemployment in Indiana was over 8% when I became governor, and it's below 5% today. Hoosier businesses, large and small, have created more than 150,000 net new jobs. And here in our bicentennial year in my state, we have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of the state of Indiana. But that's what strong Republican leadership gets you. And that's exactly the kind of strong Republican leadership that Donald Trump will bring to the White House. Trust me when I say this. When we come together as a party and a people, we re-elect strong conservative majorities in the House and the Senate, and elect this good man as the 45th President of the United States, I know in my heart of hearts we will make America great again, at home and abroad. He's a builder. He's a fighter. He's a father, and he's a patriot. I have to tell you, having had some time to spend with this good man and his family, I know that Donald Trump will be a great President of the United States of America because his heart beats with the heart of the American people. I I honestly believe in the collective wisdom of the American people and the capacity of the people of our nation to know who we need, who the right person is at the right time for America. It happened in 1980 when Ronald Reagan was chosen that we had a man like our nominee this year who, although he had achieved great heights in his own career, never lost touch with everyday Americans. To be around our nominee, as I had the privilege to be, not on the campaign trail, but out among his associates, people that he's employed for years, and among his family. I have a sense of this man. I have a sense of his heart. I have a sense of his hands-on style of leadership. And for all the world, he reminds me of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan achieved great things in his life and his career. A movie star, a celebrity, a governor of the great state of California, but he never lost the common touch, did he? One of my most cherished speeches of Ronald Reagan was his farewell address in the Oval Office. In fact, he talked about being in a motorcade. And I can report to you today, here at the ACU, I came over on my first trip in a motorcade today. I actually got out of the car in the alley and I saw all these cars. And I turned to the security official and I said, "Are they all with us?" So, welcome to our world, dear. But I'll never forget those words, and I'll paraphrase them if you'll forgive me. In the Oval Office, when Ronald Reagan talked about speeding by and seeing everyday Americans waving, and how in his heart of heart, even after 8 years that literally transformed our nation and transformed the world, Ronald Reagan spoke about how he wanted just to reach out and touch the people that were waving along the roadsides. Because that's where his heart was at. And I submit to you today, having gotten to know this good man who is our nominee, Donald Trump may have achieved great heights in business and industry and in the world of entertainment, but his heart is with everyday Americans, and he will fight every day to strengthen this nation. So the time has come for us to come together. Primaries are over. It was a big stage up there with a lot of extraordinarily talented men and women. But I say to my fellow conservatives today, it's time for us to come together. Time for us to come together around this good man and re-electing Republican majorities in the House and the Senate, because this is no ordinary time in the life of our nation. The truth of the matter is, the agenda of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton has weakened America's place in the world and stifled our nation's economy. And so we must decide here and now that Hillary Clinton will never become president of the United States of America. For the sake of our troops, who deserve a commander-in-chief who will have their back. For the sake of hard-working Americans and businesses who deserve a president who will get Washington, D.C. off their back. And for the sake of a Supreme Court that will uphold the sanctity of life, our Second Amendment, and our God-given liberties, we must elect Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States of America. And we must be confident. With this, I'll close. We must be confident in the choice the American people will make and have made. I got a chance to meet Ronald Reagan in 1988 when I was preparing to lose my first campaign for Congress. We went to the White House. You can probably Google it online and find a picture of someone who looks alarmingly like my son sitting next to Ronald Reagan. We were waiting anxiously. Karen and I were in the East Room with a short line of candidates, waiting for the photo op with the president. They handed me a card about what to say, something about we needed a bridge or we needed a road or something about Indiana that we could put in a press release. And I turned to that young lady over there and I said, you know, this man is the reason why I became a Republican. And I just would like to say something from my heart. And my wife, as she always does, says, just tell them what's on your heart. So I sat down. It's in the blue room. I sat down across from the president. For all the world, I felt like I was talking to Mount Rushmore. I was a little nervous. But I collected myself, and the president graciously asked as the cameras were clicking, he said, Mike, how's the campaign going? And I said, well, it's going fine, but I got something I'd like to say. He said, well, say it. And I said, Mr. President, I would just like to thank you for everything you've done for this country and everything you've done to encourage my generation of Americans to believe in this country again. And for all the world, for the rest of my life, I will believe in that moment that the 40th President of the United States of America blushed and said, well, that's a very nice thing of you to say. Like he'd never heard it before. Then a few minutes later, I understood why he responded as he did. And it's what I want to leave you with today as we go into the next 4 months of this campaign. We walked into the East Room, and Karen was there with a few other spouses, maybe about 30 others. And apparently a few other candidates had said the things that I said to him. So he stepped up to a makeshift podium, and he said words I will never forget. He said, you know, a couple of you thanked me for what I did for this country. But he said, I don't think I did anything for this country. He said, I think the American people decided to right the ship, and I was just the captain they put on the bridge when they did it. What I saw there was extraordinary humility. What I saw there was an unshakable faith in the capacity of the American people to achieve greatness and astound the world. And what I saw there in the East Room of the White House, I promise you, I hear it and I see it in the man who I believe will be the next president of the United States. He loves this country. He believes in the American people and their boundless potential. He is unintimidated by the world, but he is in awe of the people of this country. And I know that I know that I know, if we will work every day between now and 6 months from tomorrow, that on that day, Donald Trump will raise his hand, become the 45th President of the United States of America, and he and we will make America great again. Thank you very much.